You think you're special because you wear that trident? Tonight we're gonna show you what happens to bitches who forget their place. 4 men. 1 locked door. A 25-year-old woman alone in the dark. They thought she was just another victim. Another name to add to their list. Another career destroyed in silence. They had no idea she'd been waiting for them. Every step they took into that room was being recorded. Every threat, every second. By the time security arrived, she was standing. They were begging. Before we show you how it all collapsed around them, hit subscribe, like, and drop a comment with where you're watching from. This story traveled further than they ever imagined. Forward Operating Base Sandstone sat like a forgotten wound in the desert. The kind of place careers went to die. Lieutenant Junior Grade Mira Vance stepped off the transport helicopter at 0600 hours on a Tuesday morning. The heat hit her face like an open oven. Sand crunched under boots that had walked through worse. She was 25 years old, the youngest woman to ever complete advanced SEAL combat integration training. And she wasn't here by accident. The official paperwork called it an administrative liaison assignment, routine evaluation. Nothing special. The unofficial truth was something else entirely. 2 female service members had requested emergency transfers from this base in the past 6 months. Both refused to explain why. Both left the military within weeks of their transfers. One attempted suicide 3 months later. Naval Criminal Investigative Service had opened a quiet file. They needed someone who could blend in. Someone young enough to seem vulnerable. Someone trained enough to survive whatever she found. They chose Mira. She'd read the briefing files on the flight over. Thin. Too thin. Names mentioned, but never investigated. Complaints filed, but never processed. A pattern that kept repeating. Now she stood on the landing pad, watching dust settle around her boots, and waited. A sergeant approached. Late 30s. Broad shoulders. The kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Lieutenant Vance," he extended his hand. "Sergeant First Class Cole Briggs. Welcome to paradise." Mira shook it. His grip lingered half a second too long. "Long flight?" he asked. "I've had longer." "Bet you have." His gaze dropped to her collar, then lower. "They're sending them young these days. What are you, 22, 23? 25. Still practically a baby." He grinned. "Don't worry. We'll take good care of you out here." Something cold moved through Mira's chest. Not fear. Recognition. She'd met men like Briggs before. The ones who tested immediately. The ones who needed to establish dominance in the first 30 seconds of meeting a woman. "I appreciate that," she said evenly. "Where's my quarters? Follow me." He led her across the compound, past the training yards where Marines ran drills in the brutal morning heat, past the mess hall where faces turned to watch her pass, past the administrative building where the base commander's office sat behind tinted windows. Every step, Briggs walked too close, his shoulder brushing hers, his voice pitched low enough that only she could hear. "Word of advice, Lieutenant. This base runs a certain way. The guys here work hard, play hard. They don't need some outside evaluation making them nervous. I'm not here to make anyone nervous." "Good." He stopped outside a row of prefab units separated from the main barracks by 50 yards of open ground. "Female officers' quarters. You'll have the end unit. Nice and quiet." Mira looked at the isolated building. No cameras visible on this side. No foot traffic. The nearest occupied structure was a supply warehouse with boarded windows. "Quiet," she repeated. "Like I said, paradise." He handed her a key card and smiled again. That same smile that never touched his eyes. "Dinner's at 1800. Staff meeting at 1930. I'll save you a seat." He walked away before she could respond. Mira stood alone outside her quarters and memorized everything. The blind corners, the broken light fixture above her door, the way the gravel path curved behind the building where no one could see. This wasn't an assignment. It was a trap, and someone had built it very carefully. Inside the room was exactly what she expected. Single cot, footlocker, a desk with a lamp that flickered when she turned it on, bathroom barely big enough to stand in. She swept for surveillance devices. Found nothing. That worried her more than finding something would have. Her bag hit the bed. She unpacked methodically. Clothes in the locker. Toiletries on the shelf. Her service weapon secured in the desk drawer. Then she stopped. Something was scratched into the inside of her locker door. Fresh marks in the gray metal. Letters carved with a knife or a key. They did it to me too. Be careful. K. Mira traced the letters with her finger. The metal was still rough. This had been done recently. Weeks, maybe. Days, possibly. K. She pulled out her phone and opened the personnel files she'd downloaded before leaving. Scrolled through the names of every woman who'd been assigned to Phobie Sandstone in the past 2 years. Kelly Morrison, administrative specialist, transferred out 8 months ago, currently separated from service. Last known address was a VA hospital in San Diego. Catherine Webb, supply officer, transferred out 14 months ago, currently working civilian sector. Declined 3 interview requests from NCIS. Karen Reyes, communications technician, transferred out 6 months ago, the one who'd attempted suicide. 3 women, 3 letters K, 3 destroyed careers, and now Mira was sleeping in the same room where at least one of them had carved a warning into a locker door. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Vance. Lieutenant. The voice was female, young, scared. You don't know me. I work in supply. I saw you arrive this morning. Who is this? Please don't ask my name. I needed to tell you something. Mira sat on the edge of her cot. I'm listening. Be careful around Briggs, him and his guys. Harmon Voss Webb. They run things here. The commander doesn't see it, or doesn't want to see it. What do they do? Silence. Then a shaky breath. They pick targets. Women who are alone. Women who don't have connections. They make it impossible to do your job. They make it impossible to report anything. And when someone finally breaks, what happens? They were in my room once. 3 of them. They didn't do anything. They just stood there. Told me what they could do if they wanted to. Told me who would believe me if I tried to report it. Her voice cracked. No one would believe me. That's what they said. And they were right. Mira's grip tightened on the phone. What's your name? I can't. I have 18 months left on my contract. I just need to get through it. If you testify, I can't. The woman was crying now. I'm sorry. I just wanted you to know, so you don't end up like the others. The line went dead. Mira sat in the silence of her room and stared at the letters carved into her locker door. 3 women had tried to survive this place. All 3 had failed. She wasn't going to be the 4th. The mess hall was loud with the clatter of trays and the rumble of male voices. Mira walked in at exactly 1800 hours and felt the room shift. Conversations didn't stop. They changed pitch. Quieter. More careful. Eyes tracking her from table to table. She got her food and looked for a seat. Briggs waved from a table near the back. 4 men around him, all of them watching her approach. Lieutenant, saved you a spot. She sat. The men didn't introduce themselves. They just stared. Guys, Briggs said, this is our new administrative liaison, She's here to make sure we're all doing our jobs correctly. One of them snorted. Young, maybe 22. Buzz cut and a smirk. Administrative liaison, he repeated. That what they're calling it now, Corporal Harmon, Briggs said with a grin. Mind your manners. I'm just saying. Harmon leaned back in his chair. Last admin liaison we had couldn't find her way to the bathroom without getting lost. What's this one gonna evaluate how fast we can run? Laughter around the table. Mira ate without responding. What's your background, Lieutenant? The question came from across the table. Tall guy. Quiet until now. Before this assignment. Intelligence support. Navy. That's right. Special operations. Mira looked up. His eyes were sharp, calculating. Advanced integration training, she said. The table went quiet. Briggs leaned forward. Integration training, like with the teams. SEAL combat integration. Yes. She watched it register. The shift in posture. The way Harmon's smirk flickered for just a moment. So you're not just some paper pusher, Briggs said slowly. I never said I was. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. Loud, forced. Well, damn, they sent us a warrior princess. Better watch ourselves, boys. More laughter. But different now. Harder edges. The tall, quiet one didn't laugh. He just kept watching her with those calculating eyes. Voss, Briggs said to him. You're being rude. Introduce yourself. PFC Tyler Voss. No handshake offered. Welcome to Sandstone. Thank you. The fourth man at the table hadn't spoken at all. Big, muscular, empty expression. That's Webb, Briggs said. He doesn't talk much. Don't take it personal. Webb nodded once. His eyes moved over her like she was inventory. Mira finished her meal in silence while they talked around her. About training. About the heat. About women they'd known at other bases. Every comment had an edge. Every laugh carried weight. She was being tested, measured, evaluated. By the time she left the mess hall, she knew exactly what she was dealing with. This wasn't harassment. This was a system. Organized. Protected. Repeating. And these four men were at the center of it. The staff meeting ran until 2100 hours. Base operations, training schedules, supply requisitions, the kind of bureaucratic theater that made Mira's eyes heavy. Captain Mercer ran the meeting from the head of the table. Mid-50s. Gray at the temples. The kind of officer who'd found a quiet posting and intended to ride it to retirement. He barely acknowledged Mira's presence. One glance when she entered. A mumbled welcome. Then back to his notes. When it ended, she approached his desk. Captain, I'd like to discuss my evaluation parameters. He didn't look up. Talk to Briggs. He handles operational integration. With respect, sir, I'd prefer to report directly to you. Now he looked up, annoyed. Lieutenant, I have a base to run. Whatever you're here to evaluate, Briggs can facilitate. That's his job. Captain, dismissed. She stood there for a moment, watching him pretend to read his papers. One more thing, sir, he sighed. What? I reviewed the transfer requests from the past 18 months. 3 female service members requested emergency reassignment. All 3 requests went through your office. His pen stopped moving. What's your point? I'm curious why none of them included exit interviews. Standard protocol requires documentation of reasons for emergency transfer requests. Mercer's jaw tightened. Those personnel matters are confidential. I have clearance, not for everything. He set his pen down and met her eyes for the first time. Let me give you some advice, Lieutenant. You're young. You're ambitious. I understand that. But this base runs smoothly because we don't create problems where none exist. 3 women left emergency transfers and no one asked why. People leave bases all the time. Personal reasons. Family issues. Career changes. He shrugged. Not everything is a conspiracy. I didn't say it was. Then stop acting like it is. He picked up his pen again. You're here for 2 weeks. Do your evaluation. Write your report. And try not to make enemies you don't need. Mira didn't move. Are you giving me an order to stop asking questions, sir? Mercer looked at her. Something flickered in his eyes. Something that might have been fear. I'm giving you advice. Take it or leave it. She left. The walk back to her quarters was dark. The base lighting was sparse out here. Shadows pooled between buildings. Mira walked with her hand near her sidearm. Not touching. Just ready. Footsteps behind her. She didn't turn, didn't speed up, just adjusted her path slightly, moving toward the better-lit section near the supply warehouse. The footsteps matched her pace. Long walk alone, Lieutenant. Briggs. She recognized his voice before she turned. He stood 10 feet behind her, hands in his pockets, smiling. Shouldn't you be in the barracks? She asked. I like night air. Clears my head. He walked closer. You too. I'm going to my quarters. I know. I'll walk you. That's not necessary. Maybe I want to. He fell into step beside her. Too close, shoulder almost touching hers. Captain Mercer can be difficult. Don't let him get to you. I won't. Good. He was quiet for a moment. You asked him about the transfers. It wasn't a question. That's part of my evaluation. See, that's what I thought. He stopped walking. She stopped too, facing him in the darkness between buildings. Let me tell you something about those women, Lieutenant. Every one of them had problems before they got here. Emotional problems. Discipline problems. They couldn't cut it. And instead of admitting that they blamed the environment. That's not what the files suggest. Files don't tell you everything. He stepped closer. I was here. I saw them fall apart. Crying in the mess hall. Missing training. Making accusations that couldn't be verified. What kind of accusations? His smile didn't waver. The kind women make when they can't compete. When they need someone else to blame for their failures. Mira held his gaze. Is that your professional assessment? That's reality. He reached out and touched her shoulder. Light, almost friendly. You seem different. Tougher. I respect that. But I'd hate to see you go down the same road. She didn't flinch from his touch. Didn't step back. Is that a warning? It's advice, same as Mercer gave you. His hand dropped. This base works because people know their place, know who to trust, know when to keep their mouths shut. And where's my place? He laughed. Low. Intimate. That's up to you, Lieutenant. You can be part of the team, or you can be another casualty. He started walking again past her toward the main barracks. Sleep well. She watched him disappear into the darkness. Then she continued to her quarters. Unlocked the door. Stepped inside. And found that someone had been there while she was gone. Her footlocker was open, contents disturbed, her service weapon still in the desk drawer, but positioned differently than she'd left it. On her pillow, placed carefully in the center, was a single photograph. Her. From the personnel database. With 2 words written across it in black marker. Pretty thing. Dang. Mira didn't sleep that night. She sat on her cot with her weapon in her lap and listened to every sound outside her door. The wind. The distant generators. The occasional crunch of boots on gravel. 3 times footsteps approached her building. 3 times they paused outside her door. 3 times they moved on. They were watching, testing her reactions, seeing if she'd run. She wasn't going to run. At 04:30, she pulled out her secure laptop and began composing a report. Everything she'd observed, the isolated quarters, the disabled cameras she'd noted during her walk, the warning in the locker, the phone call, the mess hall dynamics, Briggs, Mercer, the photograph. She encrypted it and sent it to her handler at NCIS. Then she added a personal note. They're organized. They've done this before. They're going to do it again. I need more time. The response came an hour later. Understood. Maintain cover. Document everything. Backup is 48 hours out if you need extraction. She didn't need extraction. She needed evidence. Day 2 opened with physical training at 0600. The heat was already brutal. Marines formed up on the training pad in rows of 10. Mira joined them. Briggs ran the session. Push-ups, pull-ups, running, the kind of basic conditioning that separated the committed from the pretenders. She felt eyes on her the entire time, watching to see if she'd fail, watching to see if she'd quit. She didn't fail. She didn't quit. By the end, she'd outperformed half the men on the pad. Not showing off, just meeting the standard the same way she'd met it 100 times before. Briggs watched her finish her final set of pull-ups. His expression was unreadable. Not bad, Lieutenant. Thanks. Most women tap out by the second rotation. I'm not most women. He smiled. That same empty smile. No, you're not. Harmon walked over, wiping sweat from his face. Damn, LT. Where'd you learn to do that? SEAL integration training. We did this before breakfast. Before breakfast, he laughed. That's brutal. That's the standard. So what are you doing here? Voss had appeared behind her. Quiet. Always quiet. If you're that qualified, why administrative liaison work? Good question. Careful answer. The Navy puts you where they need you. And they needed you here. Apparently. Voss studied her, those calculating eyes again. Interesting timing, he said, right after the last transfer. What transfer? Karen Reyes, communications. He watched her reaction. She left 6 months ago. Emergency. Same as the others. I don't know anything about that. No. He smiled slightly. Then you should ask around. People here love talking about the women who couldn't hack it. He walked away before she could respond. Mira watched him go. He was the smart one, the one who suspected. She'd have to be careful with him. The next 3 days established a pattern. Mornings physical training where she proved herself over and over. Days administrative work where she documented everything. Schedules, personnel movements, command structures. Evenings meals in the mess hall where Briggs and his crew circled like sharks testing blood in the water. Nights alone in her quarters listening to footsteps outside her door, cataloging the small violations that accumulated like evidence. Someone went through her laundry. Her bathroom lock was broken, clearly forced. A note appeared in her desk drawer. Nice underwear. Her shampoo was replaced with something that smelled different. Wrong. Each incident was small. Deniable. The kind of thing that sounded paranoid when reported. That was the point. Make her sound crazy. Make her seem unstable. Build a narrative of a woman who couldn't handle the pressure. She documented everything. Timestamps, photographs, details, and she waited. On day 4, she found the first ally she could trust. Staff Sergeant Diana Cortez worked in the motor pool. 31 years old, 12 years in service. Hard eyes and harder hands. Mira noticed her at lunch, sitting alone, watching Briggs's table with an expression of barely concealed contempt. "Anyone sitting here?" Cortez looked up, surprised. "No. Go ahead." Mira sat. They ate in silence for a minute. "You're the new admin liaison," Cortez said finally. "That's right. You've been spending a lot of time with Briggs and his boys. They've been spending a lot of time with me." Cortez snorted, not quite a laugh. "Yeah, they do that." She pushed food around her plate. "Word of advice, don't let them get you alone." Speaking from experience, the silence stretched. "I've been here 2 years," Cortez said quietly. "I've seen what happens to women who aren't careful." "Karen Reyes." Cortez's fork stopped moving. "How do you know that name?" "I read files." "Files don't tell you anything." "Then tell me something real." Cortez looked around. The mess hall was crowded, loud, no one paying attention to 2 women having lunch. "Karen came to me. 3 months before she transferred. She was scared. Said Briggs and his crew had been in her room. Said they hadn't touched her. Just stood there. Told her things." "What things? What they were going to do? How no one would believe her? How she'd be the one who got punished if she reported it?" Cortez's voice was steady, but her hands weren't. "She tried to report it anyway. Mercer buried it. Said there was no evidence. Said she was being hysterical." "What happened then?" "She broke. Stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. Started making mistakes in her work. That gave them the excuse they needed. Recommended her for transfer, mental health concerns." Cortez laughed bitterly. 3 months later, she tried to kill herself. When Mira absorbed this. "Why didn't you report what you knew?" "I did, officially. Twice." Cortez met her eyes. "Both reports disappeared. Mercer's office. And suddenly I was being evaluated for attitude problems, transferred to motor pool where I'd be out of the way." She shook her head. "I learned. Keep your head down. Do your time. Get out alive." "That's not right." "No, but it's reality." Cortez stood picking up her tray. "Be careful, Lieutenant. Whatever you're here to do, be careful. They've been getting away with this for years, and they're not going to stop just because someone new shows up asking questions." She walked away. Mira sat alone with her thoughts. Years. They'd been doing this for years, protected by a commander who either didn't care or actively participated, enabled by a system designed to silence victims. She had 10 days left. That wasn't enough time to build a case, not a real one. Not one that would survive military bureaucracy and institutional protection. She needed them to make a move. She needed evidence they couldn't deny. That night she made herself visible. The gym cage sat behind the barracks. Open air. Poor lighting. The kind of place where things happened without witnesses. At 2200 hours, Mira walked there with a water bottle and a towel. She trained. Pull-ups, core work, plyometrics. The kind of workout she'd done 1,000 times, but never here, never alone, never this late. She felt them watching within 15 minutes. Shadows at the edge of the cage, movement in her peripheral vision. The sound of boots on gravel, then silence. She kept training. Briggs appeared first, casual, hands in pockets. "Late workout, Lieutenant." "I don't sleep well in new places." "Yeah." He walked closer, leaned against the cage wall. "Me neither." She finished her set, walked to her water bottle, drank. "Nice form," he said. "Most women don't know how to train properly." "Most women weren't taught by SEALs." "Right. The integration training." He pushed off the wall, moved closer. "You know, I've been thinking about that, about why they really sent you here. Administrative evaluation." That's the paperwork. But paperwork doesn't tell the whole story. He was close now. Close enough that she could smell him. You've been asking questions. About the transfers. About things that don't concern admin work. Everything concerns admin work. Does it? He smiled. See, my friend Voss thinks you're some kind of investigator. Says your questions don't match your cover story. Mira's heart rate increased. She controlled her breathing. Your friend Voss should worry about his own business. We share concerns around here. That's how a team works. He reached out, touched her arm. I'm going to ask you directly, Lieutenant. Are you here to investigate this unit? She looked at his hand on her arm, then at his face. I'm here to do my job. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. His grip tightened, just slightly, just enough to communicate. Then let me be direct, too, he said quietly. Whatever you think you're going to find, you won't. Whatever you think you're going to report, it won't go anywhere. This base operates the way it operates because the people in charge understand how things work. How things work. Men, women, power. He shrugged. Some people lead. Some people follow. Some people think they can change the natural order. Those people get hurt. Is that a threat? It's education. He released her arm, stepped back, still smiling. You're young, talented, attractive. You could have a good career ahead of you. Don't throw it away trying to be a hero. He walked away without looking back. Mira stood alone in the cage, heart pounding, mind racing. He knew, or suspected enough that it didn't matter. The game had changed. She walked back to her quarters slowly. Every shadow felt alive. Every sound amplified. The door was closed, locked. She'd been careful this time. She unlocked it, stepped inside, turned on the light. Her room had been destroyed, clothes thrown across the floor, footlocker upended, mattress slashed. Her laptop smashed, screen cracked, keyboard torn off. On the wall, written in what looked like motor oil, last warning. Mira stood in the doorway and felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear. Clarity. They'd made their move, declared their intentions, put her on notice. Most people would break now. Run, report, pray for extraction. But Mira wasn't most people. She walked to her desk, opened the drawer where she'd hidden a second device. A small recorder, still intact, still running. She picked it up, checked the timestamp. Whatever had happened in this room while she was gone, she had audio. Then she pulled out her phone, made a call. This is Vance. I need you to listen carefully. On the other end, her handler's voice was tense. What happened? They escalated. My quarters were trashed. Explicit threat on the wall. They think they're intimidating me. She paused. They're wrong. We can extract you in 12 hours. Negative. I'm staying. Lieutenant, listen to me. They're going to come for me. Soon. Maybe tonight. Maybe tomorrow. They think I'm scared. They think I'll run or break. She looked at the message on her wall. I'm going to let them think that. And when they make their final move, I'm going to have everything we need. Silence on the line. That's extremely dangerous. I know. If something goes wrong, then you come in and finish what I started. But it won't go wrong. She picked up the photograph of herself that was lying on the floor, the one they'd left days ago. I've trained my whole life for situations like this. I know exactly what I'm doing. More silence. 48 hours. Then we're coming in regardless. Understood. She ended the call. Then she began cleaning up. Slowly. Methodically. Not hiding what had happened, but not advertising it either. Let them watch. Let them think she was scared. Let them believe they were in control. The trap wasn't set for her anymore. She was setting it for them. The next morning, Mira walked into the mess hall like nothing had happened. She'd spent 4 hours cleaning her quarters, repositioning her belongings, creating the appearance of normalcy while hiding the slashed mattress under fresh sheets. Let them wonder. Let them watch for signs of panic. She got her breakfast and sat at an empty table near the window, eating slowly, reading a paperback she'd brought, looking exactly like a woman who hadn't been terrorized 12 hours earlier. Briggs noticed immediately. She felt his gaze from across the room, felt the confusion radiating off his table. They'd expected tears, frantic calls to command, emergency transfer requests. Instead, she was eating scrambled eggs and reading a novel. Harmon walked over first, testing the waters. "Morning, Lieutenant. Sleep well. Like a baby." "Really?" He sat down across from her, uninvited. "Because I heard there was some commotion in the female quarters last night." "Did you—" "Someone said they heard banging, around 2300. He smiled. "You didn't notice anything?" Mira turned a page in her book. "I was at the gym until late. Came back and went straight to sleep." "Huh." Harmon studied her face, looking for cracks. "That's good. Some of the women here get nervous at night. Start imagining things." "I don't imagine things." "No." She looked up, met his eyes directly. "No." Harmon's smile flickered, just for a second. "Well, good talk." He stood. "See you at training." She watched him walk back to Briggs, watched them lean together whispering, watched the confusion spread. Good. Confusion created mistakes. Mistakes created evidence. The training yard was brutal that morning. Full gear, combat simulation, the kind of exercise designed to break down coordination and expose weakness. Mira partnered with a corporal named Jenkins, young, nervous, one of the men who'd stayed silent at Briggs's table but never joined the laughter. "Lieutenant," he said quietly during a water break, "can I tell you something?" "Go ahead." He looked around, making sure no one was close. "Be careful today. I heard them talking, Briggs and Voss. They're planning something during the live fire drill." "Planning what?" "I don't know exactly. Something about making you look bad, making it look like you cracked under pressure." He swallowed. "I shouldn't be telling you this." "Why are you—" Jenkins was quiet for a moment. "My sister was in the army. She had problems at her base, same kind of problems." His jaw tightened. "She didn't make it. Took her own life 3 years ago." Mira felt something shift in her chest. "I'm sorry. Just be careful. Please." He walked away before she could respond. The live fire drill started at 1400 hours. Standard protocol. Move through the kill house. Engage targets. Coordinate with your partner. Don't get shot by the simulation rounds that hurt like hell, even with protective gear. Mira checked her weapon. Checked her magazine. Checked Jenkins, who nodded once. Briggs ran the exercise from the observation platform. "Vance. Jenkins, you're up." They moved to the start position. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, execute." They breached the first room clean. 2 targets. 2 shots. Move. Second room. Clear. Third room. Something felt wrong. Jenkins was supposed to cover the left corner. Instead, he was hanging back, hesitating. "Jenkins, move up." "I can't," he whispered. "They're watching. If I help you—" A simulation round hit Mira's shoulder. The impact staggered her sideways. Another hit her leg. From the platform, Briggs's voice echoed through the speaker. "Vance is hit. Vance is down. Exercise over." She hadn't been down. The shots came from angles that shouldn't have been possible in the exercise parameters. Someone had changed the simulation. She stood up, ignoring the pain, and looked at the observation platform. Briggs was smiling. "Looks like our SEAL integration specialist needs more practice," he said into the microphone. "Maybe desk work is more her speed." Laughter from somewhere behind her. Harmon and Webb standing near the exit. Mira removed her helmet, wiped sweat from her face. Jenkins wouldn't meet her eyes. "Reset the course," she said loudly. Briggs raised an eyebrow. "You want to run it again?" "I want a fair run this time. Standard parameters. No modifications." The silence that followed was heavy. "Are you accusing me of something, Lieutenant?" "I'm requesting a standard exercise. That's all." And he stared at her for a long moment. "Fine. Reset. Standard parameters." He turned to the rest of the group. "Everyone watch closely. Let's see what our guest can really do." She ran it again. This time Jenkins stayed in position. This time the simulation worked correctly. She cleared the course in 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Faster than anyone else that day. When she finished, she walked past Briggs without a word. His smile was gone. That afternoon, Mira found Cortez in the motor pool. "I need your help." Cortez looked up from the engine she was working on. Hands covered in grease, eyes suspicious. "With what?" "I need access to the security system logs, camera footage from the past 6 months. "Why?" "Because someone modified that live fire exercise to make me fail. And I'm betting that's not the first time they've manipulated things around here." Cortez wiped her hands slowly. "The security system is controlled through Mercer's office. It handles the backups. And the IT specialist is PFC Webb." Mira absorbed this. "Webb? One of Briggs's guys. Convenient, right?" Cortez shook her head. "Any footage that might show something they don't want seen gets corrupted. Technical issues, file errors, always an explanation. But there must be backup somewhere. Maybe. The base has an off-site server that mirrors everything. Emergency protocol. But accessing it requires command authorization. Which Mercer would never give. No, he wouldn't." Mira thought for a moment. What if something happened that made the base subject to external review something they couldn't control? Cortez studied her. Like what? Like a complaint filed directly with NCIS, bypassing the base chain of command. That would trigger an automatic investigation, including data preservation protocols. Meaning they couldn't delete the backups. In theory. Cortez's voice dropped lower. "But if you file that complaint, they'll know it was you. And whatever they're planning, they'll accelerate it." "I know." "You could get hurt, seriously hurt." "I know that too." Cortez was quiet for a long moment. "Why are you doing this? Really, it's not just about the assignment, is it?" Mira looked at her. "My first year in the Navy, I had a roommate, Emily Chen. Smart, capable. Better swimmer than me." She paused. "She reported harassment by a superior officer. Standard procedure. By the book." "What happened?" "Nothing. The report disappeared. She was transferred. 6 months later, she resigned her commission. Last I heard, she was living with her parents in Ohio. Won't talk about her service. Won't talk about what happened." "And the officer? Promoted, twice." Cortez nodded slowly. "So this is personal. This is necessary." Mira met her eyes. "I can't change what happened to Emily, or to Karen Reyes, or to the women who came before them, but I can make sure it stops here. That's a big promise." "I know." Cortez looked at her for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression. "There's a terminal in the comm building, 3rd floor. It has direct access to the base network, including the security logs." "How do I get in?" "You don't, not without a code." Cortez reached into her pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper. But I do. Night maintenance access. I inspect the generators every Thursday at 0200. That's tonight. Yeah, it is. Mira took the paper. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. If this goes wrong, we're both finished. It won't go wrong. You sound sure. I've been training my whole life to be sure. That night, Mira waited in her quarters until 0145. The base was quiet. Night shift personnel moved through predictable patterns. The main areas were patrolled, but the auxiliary buildings were largely ignored. She dressed in dark clothing, left her phone behind, took only the paper with the code and a small USB drive she'd hidden in her emergency kit. The walk to the comm building took 7 minutes. She moved through shadows, avoiding the paths where cameras were functional. The side entrance was exactly where Cortez had described. A maintenance door with a keypad lock. She entered the code. The light turned green. Inside the building was dark except for emergency lighting. The hum of servers filled the silence. 3rd floor. End of the hall. Terminal 6. She moved quickly, each step measured, each corner checked. The terminal room was unlocked. Whoever had last used it hadn't followed protocol. She sat down, powered up the system, entered Cortez's maintenance credentials. Access granted. The security archive was organized by date. 6 months of footage stored on the local server. She started with the night Karen Reyes transferred out, scrolled through the timestamps. Nothing. The files existed, but they were empty. Corrupted. She tried another date. Same result, another. Same. Weeks of footage systematically erased. But then she found something different. A folder labeled Backup Legacy. Old system. Probably forgotten when they upgraded the software. She opened it. The footage was there. Low quality, but intact. She scrolled through dates. Found one that matched the timeline. 2200 hours. Female officers' quarters. 4 figures approaching the building from the rear, moving through the camera's blind spot but briefly visible at the edge of frame. She couldn't make out faces, but she recognized the body language, the way they moved together. Coordinated. And then, in one frame, a flash of light. A phone screen illuminating a face for half a second. Briggs. She saved the file. Copied it to her USB drive. Then she went deeper. Communication logs. Internal messages. The stuff that was supposed to auto-delete, but often didn't on legacy systems. A thread from 4 months ago. Voss. She's asking questions about Morrison. Briggs. So Voss. So she's talking to Cortez. Connecting dots. Briggs. Then we disconnect her. Same as the others. Harmon. When Briggs. This weekend. I'll handle Mercer. Another thread 3 months earlier. Webby. Reyes filed something. Report went to Mercer's inbox. Briggs. I know. He's taking care of it. Voss. And if he doesn't Briggs, then we convince her to withdraw it. Same way we convinced the others. She saved everything. Every message. Every thread. Then she heard footsteps. Someone was in the building. She ejected the USB drive, closed the terminal, moved toward the door. The footsteps were getting closer, coming up the stairs. She had maybe 30 seconds. The window. Too high to jump safely. The storage closet. She pulled open the door and slipped inside, pressing herself against the wall, holding her breath. The footsteps reached the 3rd floor. Paused. A voice. Webb's voice. Terminal room's been accessed. Check it. A second voice. Voss. Motion sensor triggered 8 minutes ago. Someone was here. The door opened. Light flooded the room. Mira didn't move. Didn't breathe. Through the crack in the closet door, she could see Webb walking to the terminal, checking the screen. checking the logs. "Someone was in the archive," he said quietly. "Who? Can't tell, but they accessed the legacy backup folder." Silence. "The folder we missed?" "Yeah." "What did they take?" "I don't know, but we need to tell Briggs. Now!" They left. Footsteps receding down the hall. Mira waited 5 minutes, then 10. When she was sure they were gone, she slipped out of the closet and made her way back to the stairs. She moved faster now, less careful. The clock was ticking. They knew someone had been in the system. They'd figure out it was her soon enough. She had maybe 6 hours before everything changed. The walk back to her quarters felt like crossing a minefield. Every shadow could be hiding someone. Every sound could be a trap. But she made it. Unlocked her door, stepped inside, checked the USB drive. Still intact. She powered up her backup device, the one NCIS had given her, encrypted, satellite uplink. She uploaded everything. The footage, the messages, the evidence. Then she sent one message: evidence secured, accelerate timeline, expect contact within 24 hours. The response came 30 seconds later. Received. External team en route. ETA 18 hours. Maintain cover. Stay safe. She deleted the exchange, powered down the device, hid it again. Then she lay on her cot and stared at the ceiling, waiting for the sun to rise. They would come for her now. She was sure of it. The only question was when. Morning came with a knock on her door. Not aggressive, not threatening, just a knock. She opened it. Captain Mercer stood there, alone. His face was pale and drawn. "Lieutenant Vance, I need you to come with me." "Where?" "My office. Now." She followed him across the base. He didn't speak, didn't look at her. Inside his office, Briggs was waiting. He was smiling. "Lieutenant, please, sit down." She remained standing. "What is this about?" Mercer closed the door behind her. "It's come to our attention," he said slowly, "that someone accessed restricted files last night, using Staff Sergeant Cortez's credentials." Mira's expression didn't change. "That's unfortunate." "It is." Briggs stepped forward. "Especially since Cortez reported her credentials stolen 2 hours ago, filed an official complaint." Mira felt something cold move through her. Cortez had betrayed her, or been forced to. "I don't know anything about stolen credentials." "No," Briggs held up a piece of paper. "We also found this, in your quarters, during a routine inspection this morning." The paper had Cortez's access code on it, the same paper she'd been given. They'd searched her room while she was walking here with Mercer. "That's not mine." "It was in your desk." "Someone planted it." Briggs laughed, not mockingly, sympathetically, the kind of laugh that said, "Poor thing, she's losing it." "Lieutenant, I understand this assignment has been stressful. The heat, the isolation, the demands of proving yourself in a male-dominated environment." He shook his head. "It's not surprising that someone might crack under the pressure." "I haven't cracked." "Then how do you explain the stolen credentials, the unauthorized access, the erratic behavior?" "What erratic behavior?" Mercer spoke up. "I've received multiple reports, from Corporal Harmon, PFC Voss, others. They're concerned about you, say you've been paranoid, confrontational, accusing people of things they didn't do." The trap was closing. She'd seen this before. The playbook Karen Reyes had described. The pattern that had destroyed 3 women before her. Make her look crazy. Build a paper trail, push her out before she could push back. "I want to speak to my command," she said. "Directly, not through this office." Briggs and Mercer exchanged glances. "I'm afraid that won't be possible," Mercer said. Communications are being serviced today. Routine maintenance. Should be back up by tomorrow. Webb's doing, of course. Then I'll wait until tomorrow. Lieutenant. Briggs's voice hardened. You're being confined to quarters pending an investigation. Captain's orders. On what grounds? Theft of credentials, unauthorized access, potential espionage. Espionage? We don't know what you were looking for in those files, or who you're reporting to. He stepped closer. But we intend to find out. Mira looked at Mercer. You're really going to do this, confine an officer without due process, without contacting my chain of command? Mercer didn't meet her eyes. It's for your own protection. Protection from what? He didn't answer. 2 MPs appeared in the doorway. Escort Lieutenant Vance to her quarters. She's not to leave until further notice. Mira walked out with the MPs flanking her. She didn't resist, didn't argue. But as she passed Briggs, she stopped. You think you've won, she said quietly. I think the truth will come out, he replied. It always does. Yes, it will. Something flickered in his eyes. Doubt. Just for a second. Then she walked away. They posted a guard outside her door, a young Marine who wouldn't look at her. Mira sat on her cot and counted the hours. Her backup device was still hidden. Her evidence was already uploaded. External team was coming. All she had to do was survive until they arrived. But she knew Briggs wouldn't wait that long. He couldn't afford to. The moment she'd accessed those files, she'd become an existential threat to everything he'd built. He would make his move tonight, and she would be ready. At 1400 hours, the guard changed. The new one was Harmon. He didn't even pretend to be professional. Comfortable in there, Lieutenant? She didn't respond. You know you almost got away with it, whatever you were doing last night, but Webb saw the access logs. Put it together. He leaned against her doorframe. Briggs is impressed, actually. Says you're smarter than the others. I'm not interested in his impressions. No, you should be. He's the one deciding what happens next. And what happens next? Harmon smiled. Let's just say this confinement isn't going to last forever. But your career will end tonight, one way or another. He walked away. Mira listened to his footsteps fade. Then she began preparing. She had maybe 8 hours. 8 hours to set a trap inside a trap. Time to see who was really in control. The sun dropped below the horizon at 1847 hours. Mira watched through the small window of her quarters as the light bled from orange to purple to black. The guard outside her door had changed again. Not Harmon this time. Someone younger. Nervous. The kind of Marine who followed orders because he didn't know what else to do. She'd spent the afternoon preparing, moving furniture, positioning her cot against the far wall, creating clear sight lines to the door, hiding her backup recording device in the air vent above the bathroom. If they came for her tonight, she would be ready. At 2100 hours, someone knocked. Not the guard. The knock came from inside the wall. 3 quick taps near the window. Mira moved closer. Listened. Lieutenant. A whisper. Female. It's Cortez. Mira's jaw tightened. You turned me in. I had to. They knew someone accessed the system. If I didn't report the stolen credentials, they would have suspected me. A pause. I'm trying to help you. Help me how? They're coming. Tonight. 2300 hours. All 4 of them. Mira felt her heartbeat steady. Not faster. Steadier. The way it always did before action. How do you know? Harmon was bragging in the motor pool. Said they were going to teach you a permanent lesson. Said by morning you'd be begging to transfer out, or worse. Worse. Silence. Cortez. What did he mean by worse? I don't know. but Webb was testing camera angles near your building this afternoon, making sure there were blind spots. Mira closed her eyes. Thank you for warning me. I'm sorry I couldn't do more. I'm sorry I'm not braver. You're brave enough. This is enough. Be careful, Lieutenant. Please. Footsteps receding. Then nothing. Mira stood alone and counted the hours. 2 hours until they came. 2 hours to prepare. She moved to the air vent, retrieved her hidden device, checked the battery. 93%. She positioned it behind her desk lamp. Angle covering the door. The bed. The center of the room. Then she activated a second device, the emergency beacon NCIS had provided. 1 button, 1 signal, untraceable to the base network. She pressed it once. The signal went out. Now her team knew. They would be monitoring. Ready to move if things went wrong. But Mira didn't plan on things going wrong. At 22:30 hours, the guard outside her door received a radio call. She heard him respond, then heard his footsteps walking away. He didn't come back. 30 minutes. They'd cleared the area. Mira sat on her cot in the darkness. Waiting. Breathing. Centering herself the way she'd been trained. Fear was a choice. She chose not to make it. At 2247 hours, she heard them coming. 4 sets of boots, moving through the darkness toward her building. Not trying to be quiet anymore. Why would they? No guards, no cameras, no witnesses. Just her, alone. Or so they thought. The footsteps stopped outside her door. Voices. Low. Laughing. You sure she's in there? Voss, where else would she be? She's confined. Harmon. Let's just get this done. Webb. Then Briggs. Calm. Controlled. The leader. Remember what we talked about. This isn't about hurting her. This is about breaking her. Making her understand that she doesn't matter. That no one will believe her. That whatever she thinks she found, it won't save her. And if she fights back, she won't. They never do. Not when they're alone. The door handle rattled. Locked. A shoulder hit the frame. Once. Twice. The lock gave way on the 3rd impact. The door flew open. 4 shadows filled the entrance. Mira stood in the center of the room, arms at her sides, eyes adjusted to the darkness. Briggs stepped in first. His smile was visible even in the dim light. Evening, Lieutenant. Hope we're not interrupting anything. You're not. The others followed. Harmon closing the door behind them. Webb moving to block the window. Voss positioning himself near the bathroom entrance, surrounding her. You know why we're here, Briggs said. I know what you think you're going to do. Oh. He stepped closer. And what's that? The same thing you did to Karen Reyes, to Kelly Morrison, to Catherine Webb. Terrorize me. Break me down. Make me so scared and humiliated that I run, or collapse, or kill myself like Karen almost did. Briggs's smile flickered. You've been busy. So have you. 4 years at least, maybe longer. Every base you've been stationed at, women leave, transfer out, resign, disappear, and you just keep getting promoted. Careful, Lieutenant. Sounds like you're making accusations. I'm stating facts. He moved closer, close enough that she could smell the alcohol on his breath. Liquid courage. Or liquid excuse. Here's a fact for you. No one is coming to help you. Your communication uplink is down. Your chain of command doesn't know where you are. And by morning you're going to be just another hysterical woman who couldn't handle the pressure. Like the others. Exactly like the others. Harmon laughed behind her. This one's feisty. I like that. Shut up, Briggs said without turning. This is business. He reached out and touched Mira's face, his fingers tracing her jawline. She didn't flinch. "You're not scared," he said softly. "Why aren't you scared? Because I know something you don't." "What's that?" She smiled. "You're not the predator here. You're the prey." Briggs's hand stopped moving. "What did you say?" "I said you're prey. You walked into my room thinking you had the power, thinking you were in control. But you're not. You're bluffing." "Am I?" She moved, not away, toward. Her left hand came up faster than Briggs could react. She trapped his wrist at the pressure point, the same technique she'd demonstrated 100 times in training. His face twisted with surprise. "What the?" She rotated her hips, drove her shoulder into his chest, used his own momentum to spin him off balance. His shoulder folded, his elbow locked, his knees buckled. In less than 2 seconds, Cole Briggs was on the ground, face pressed into the floor, arm pinned behind his back in a position that would break if she pushed any harder. "Hands visible," she said calmly. Harmon surged forward. She'd expected that. She pivoted without releasing Briggs, caught Harmon's reaching hand with her free arm, redirected his momentum into the wall beside the cot. His head hit the metal frame with a hollow thunk. He went down, dazed, groaning. Webb moved next. The big one. The silent one. He was smarter than Harmon. Came in low, tried to tackle her midsection. Mira dropped her weight, hooked his ankle with her heel, drove her elbow into the base of his skull as he fell past her. Webb hit the floor hard. Didn't get up. 3 down in under 10 seconds. Voss hadn't moved. He stood by the bathroom door, eyes wide, phone in his hand, recording, just like she'd wanted. "Keep filming," she said. "Get everything." "You're crazy." "No, I'm prepared." She tightened her grip on Briggs. He groaned in pain. "You wanted evidence that I'm dangerous, that I'm unstable, film away. Show everyone how 4 men broke into a confined officer's quarters at 2300 hours with no authorization and no witnesses." Voss's hand trembled. "This isn't... You can't... I can. I did. And when your footage gets reviewed, they're going to see exactly what happened here. 4 men, 1 woman, a forced entry, an attempted assault. We didn't assault you. You broke down my door. You surrounded me. You touched my face without consent." She looked directly at the camera. "That's assault. That's intimidation. That's conspiracy." Briggs struggled beneath her. "Get off me. This is... You're going to pay for this." She leaned closer to his ear. "I've been recording since you walked in. Video and audio. Backup already uploaded to an external server 30 minutes ago. Your threats, your confessions, your plan to make me another victim." His body went still. "You're lying. Check the lamp on my desk. Small device. Red light if you look closely." Voss moved toward the desk. Looked. "Oh God. Now check behind you. Above the bathroom door." Voss turned. His face went white. "There's another one. Redundancy. First thing they teach you in intelligence work. Never rely on a single point of failure." Harmon was trying to stand. Mira put her knee on Briggs's spine and addressed the room. "Here's what happens now. You stay exactly where you are. You don't move. You don't speak. In approximately 12 minutes, an NCIS rapid response team is going to arrive at this base. They've been monitoring this situation since I uploaded evidence 3 hours ago." "You're bluffing," Briggs gasped. "I activated the emergency beacon at 2200 hours. They confirmed receipt at 2203. Response time from the nearest forward position is 90 minutes. She paused. "They should be landing right about now." As if on cue, the sound of helicopter rotors echoed in the distance. Everyone froze. "That's impossible," Voss whispered. "It's called preparation. something you clearly don't understand. The rotors grew louder, landing protocol, multiple aircraft. Briggs's voice cracked. Listen, we can work this out. I know people. I have connections. Whatever you want. What I want is for you to face justice. What I want is for every woman you terrorized to know that someone finally stopped you. What I want is for your name to be an example of what happens when predators think they're untouchable. Please. The word came out broken, desperate. The great Cole Briggs begging on the floor of a woman's quarters. Please, what? Don't destroy my career, my family. I have kids. Did Karen Reyes have a family when you drove her to attempt suicide? Silence. Did Kelly Morrison have dreams before you crushed them? Nothing. Did Catherine Webb have a future before you took it away? He had no answer. That's what I thought. Boots outside, multiple sets, moving fast. Someone pounded on what remained of her door. NCIS, Lieutenant Vance, are you secure? I'm secure. 4 individuals detained. They require restraints. The door opened. Tactical lights flooded the room. Men in body armor moved in. Professional. Efficient. One of them looked at the scene. 4 Marines on the floor. One woman standing in the center of the chaos. Damn, Lieutenant. I had time to prepare. They secured Briggs first, then Harmon, then Webb. Voss surrendered his phone without resistance. As they were being led out, Briggs turned back to look at her. His face was a mask of hatred. Pure. Undisguised. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. They took him away. The NCIS team leader approached her. Commander Sarah Chen. Mira had met her once before, during the initial briefing for this assignment. You okay? I'm fine. That was risky, letting them get that close before we moved in. I needed them to incriminate themselves. Threats aren't enough. Actions are evidence. Chen nodded slowly. You got it. The recording is clear. Their communications have already been seized. The base commander is being detained for questioning. Mercer, complicit at minimum. Possibly more. Mira absorbed this. What about Cortez, the staff sergeant who helped me? She's being protected. Her testimony will be crucial. She risked everything. So did you. Chen looked around the destroyed room. You could have called for extraction. Could have let us handle this from outside. And let them destroy the evidence. Let them spin another story about another hysterical woman, no. So you became the bait. I became the trap. Chen smiled slightly. The report is going to make interesting reading. Just make sure it's accurate. These women deserve to have their stories told. Not just mine. They will be. Outside the sound of more vehicles arriving. More personnel. The systematic dismantling of everything Briggs had built. Mira walked out of her quarters and stood in the cool night air. The base was waking up. Lights coming on. Marines emerging from barracks, confused, alarmed. In a few hours, everyone would know what happened. In a few days, the story would spread. 4 men who thought they were untouchable. 1 woman who proved them wrong. But it wasn't about her. Not really. It was about Karen Reyes, who almost died. It was about Kelly Morrison, who lost her career. It was about Catherine Webb, who carved a warning into a locker door. It was about every woman who'd been told to stay quiet, to not make waves, to accept the unacceptable. Tonight, finally, someone had listened. Someone had believed. Someone had acted. Mira looked up at the stars scattered across the desert sky and let herself breathe. The hardest part was over, but she knew the real battle was just beginning. The investigation moved faster than anyone expected. Within 48 hours of the arrests, NCIS had seized every computer phone and storage device connected to Briggs and his crew. The digital forensics team worked around the clock, pulling deleted messages from servers that Webb thought he'd wiped clean. He was wrong. Mira spent those first 2 days giving statements, hour after hour, in a temporary command center that had been set up in the former mess hall. Agents recorded everything, every interaction, every threat, every piece of evidence she'd gathered. Commander Chen sat across from her during the final debrief. "The communication logs you recovered are devastating," she said. "We've identified at least 12 victims across 4 different bases over 6 years. 12. That we can confirm. There may be more who never came forward." Mira absorbed this. 12 women. 12 lives disrupted or destroyed. And those were just the ones they could prove. What happens now? Court-martial proceedings are being fast-tracked. The Secretary of the Navy is personally involved. This goes all the way up. And Mercer? Chen's expression hardened. That's where it gets complicated. So the complication arrived the next morning in the form of Captain Richard Mercer's attorney, civilian counsel, expensive suit, the kind of lawyer who made problems disappear for the right price. Mira was called to observe the preliminary hearing, not to participate, just to watch. Mercer sat at the defense table, looking nothing like the dismissive commander who'd told her to stop asking questions. He looked small now, diminished. A man watching his career crumble in real time. His lawyer stood and addressed the panel. "My client acknowledges that failures occurred under his command. However, Captain Mercer was not directly involved in any criminal activity. He relied on subordinates who deceived him. He trusted reports that were falsified without his knowledge." The prosecutor, a Navy JAG captain named Torres, responded immediately. "The evidence shows Captain Mercer received multiple complaints about Sergeant Briggs's behavior. He dismissed every single one. He actively discouraged victims from pursuing formal charges. He created an environment where predators operated freely. My client exercised command discretion. That's not a crime. Command discretion doesn't include covering up sexual assault." The word hung in the air. Mercer's attorney moved quickly to redirect. "There's no evidence of assault. The incidents in question involved intimidation and harassment, which, while inappropriate, do not rise to the level. Karen Reyes attempted suicide 3 months after transferring from this base." Silence. Torres continued. "Kelly Morrison hasn't held a job in 2 years. She's been in and out of treatment facilities. Catherine Webb submitted a written statement describing how 4 men entered her quarters and described in explicit detail what they intended to do to her. Alleged statements from alleged victims who are now willing to testify. All of them. Because someone finally believed them." Mercer's attorney sat down. The hearing continued for another hour, but the outcome was already clear. Mercer would face charges. Not as severe as Briggs, but enough to end his career and, potentially, his freedom. Afterward, Torres approached Mira in the corridor. "That was harder than it should have been," he said. "It always is. His lawyer is going to argue command immunity, say he was just following established protocols. Protocols don't include ignoring criminal behavior. No, they don't." Torres paused. "The victims are asking about you, the ones who've come forward. They want to meet you." Mira felt something shift in her chest. "Why?" "Because you're the first person who made them feel like they weren't crazy. Like what happened to them actually mattered." She didn't know how to respond to that. "When? Tomorrow. If you're willing." "I'm willing." The meeting took place in a conference room at the Naval Medical Center in San Diego. Neutral ground. Professional support available if needed. Mira arrived early, sat at the table, and waited. The first woman to enter was Karen Reyes, 28 years old. Thin. Eyes that had seen too much and trusted too little. Scars visible on her wrists that she didn't try to hide. She sat down across from Mira without speaking. Then Kelly Morrison, 32, former administrative specialist. Hands that trembled slightly when she reached for her water glass. Then Catherine Webb, the one who'd carved the warning in the locker. 26. Still on active duty at a different base, the only one who'd stayed in uniform. 3 women, 3 survivors. Mira looked at each of them. "Thank you for coming." Karen spoke first. Her voice was steady, but fragile. "When I heard what happened, I didn't believe it. I thought it was a mistake, another cover-up disguised as justice. It's not a cover-up. I know that now." She paused. "They told me no one would believe me. They said I was imagining things. They said if I reported it, I'd be the one who got punished. They were wrong." "Were they?" Karen's eyes met hers. "I lost my career, my marriage, my sense of who I was. I spent 3 months in a psychiatric facility after I tried to kill myself. Even now, even with them arrested, I still feel like I lost." Mira didn't look away. "You didn't lose. You survived. Surviving isn't winning. Sometimes it's all we have, and sometimes it's enough." Kelly spoke next. "I've been in therapy for 2 years, every week, trying to understand why I couldn't just move on, why I keep having nightmares about things that technically never happened to my body. Trauma doesn't require physical contact. I know that now. I didn't know it then," and she wiped her eyes. "They made me feel like nothing, like I didn't exist except as something for them to laugh about. And the worst part was no one else seemed to notice, or care." "I noticed. Why did you believe us when no one else did?" Mira was quiet for a moment. "Because I've seen it before. Different base, different names, same pattern. And I swore that if I ever had the chance to stop it, I would." Catherine leaned forward. "The warning I left in the locker. Did you find it?" "Yes." "I carved it the night before I transferred out. I knew someone else would eventually get that room. I wanted them to know they weren't imagining things." "It helped. More than you know." Catherine's composure cracked slightly. "I felt like a coward, running away instead of fighting. I should have done what you did. You did what you had to do to survive. There's no shame in that." "Then why do I feel so ashamed?" Mira reached across the table, took her hand. "Because they made you feel that way. Because the system made you feel that way. But listen to me. You are not responsible for what they did. You are not responsible for how the command failed you. The only people responsible are the ones who committed the crimes and the ones who protected them." Karen nodded slowly. "What happens now?" "After the court-martial. They go to prison. Briggs is facing 15 to 20 years. The others less but significant time. Mercer will likely be discharged and face civilian prosecution for obstruction. And then the policies change, the oversight improves. The next woman who reports something doesn't get ignored. You really believe that I have to, otherwise none of this matters?" The 3 women looked at each other. Something passed between them. Recognition. Solidarity. Karen spoke again. "We want to testify, all 3 of us, on the record. We want everyone to know what they did. Are you sure it won't be easy?" "Nothing about this has been easy, but staying silent was worse." Kelly nodded. "I've spent 2 years hiding, pretending it didn't happen. I'm done hiding." Catherine squeezed Mira's hand. You gave us our voices back. The least we can do is use them. The court-martial of Sergeant First Class Cole Briggs began 6 weeks later. The military courtroom was packed. Senior officers, legal observers, media representatives who'd been granted limited access after the story leaked to the press. Mira sat in the gallery. Civilian clothes. No rank visible. Just another witness to history. Briggs entered in shackles. He'd lost weight, lost the swagger, lost the smile that never reached his eyes. But when he saw her, something flickered. Hatred still burning even now. She didn't look away. The prosecution laid out its case methodically. Digital evidence, communication logs, testimony from victims and witnesses. The defense tried everything. Character witnesses, questions about Mira's motives, suggestions that the women had fabricated their stories for attention or revenge. None of it worked. Karen Reyes testified for 3 hours. Her voice broke twice, but she never stopped. She described what they'd done, what they'd said, how they'd made her feel like nothing. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Kelly Morrison followed. Then Catherine Webb. Then 2 other women who'd come forward after hearing about the investigation. 6 victims. 6 stories. 6 lives shattered by the same group of men. Briggs's defense attorney made one final attempt during closing arguments. These allegations are based on feelings, not facts, on interpretations, not evidence. My client is a decorated Marine with 13 years of service. Are we really going to destroy his life based on the claims of women who admittedly never suffered any physical harm? Torres stood for the prosecution's rebuttal. Physical harm isn't the only kind of harm. Psychological torture, professional sabotage, the systematic destruction of careers and mental health, these are crimes, and Sergeant Briggs committed them knowingly, repeatedly, and without remorse. He turned to face Briggs directly. You thought you were untouchable. You thought the system would protect you forever, but the system failed. And the woman you tried to break, the one you called a target, she's the reason you're sitting here today. The verdict came back in less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Mira watched Briggs's face as the judge pronounced sentence. 18 years in military prison. Dishonorable discharge. Forfeiture of all pay and benefits. His expression didn't change. Just empty now. Hollow. As they led him away, he passed within feet of where Mira sat. He stopped. The guards tried to move him, but he resisted for just a moment. You think you won, he said quietly. I know I did. This won't change anything. There are others like me, everywhere. You can't stop all of us. No, but I stopped you. And I'll stop the next one, and the one after that. He had no response. They took him away. Harmon received 12 years. Webb received 10. Voss, who had cooperated and provided testimony against the others, received 7. Mercer pleaded guilty to dereliction of duty and obstruction. He was sentenced to 3 years and stripped of his pension. Justice, finally. Not perfect, not complete, but real. After the verdict, Commander Chen found Mira outside the courtroom. How do you feel? Tired. That's it after everything. The feeling will come later. Right now I just want to sleep for about a week. Chen smiled slightly. You've earned it, but there's something you should know first. What? The Secretary of the Navy wants to see you. Tomorrow morning. Washington. Mira stared at her. Why? Because what you did here, it's not going to stay buried. It's going to become policy, training, protocol. They want you to help design it. Design what? A new approach to base climate assessment. proactive investigation of harassment patterns, protection for women who report misconduct. Chen paused. They want you to make sure this never happens again. Mira absorbed this. That's a big promise. It's a big opportunity. The question is whether you want it. She thought about Karen Reyes, about Kelly Morrison, about Catherine Webb. She thought about Emily Chen, her old roommate, the one whose report disappeared all those years ago. She thought about every woman who'd been told to stay quiet, to accept, to endure. Yes, she said. I want it. Good. Chen extended her hand. Welcome to the next chapter, Lieutenant. Mira shook it. The sun was setting over San Diego. Another day ending. Another battle finished. But the war she knew was far from over, and she was just getting started. 6 months later, Mira Vance stood in front of a classroom of 200 naval officers at the Pentagon. The room was silent, every seat filled, admirals in the front row, junior officers in the back, all of them watching her. She wasn't nervous. She'd faced worse than a crowded auditorium. My name is Lieutenant Commander Mira Vance, she began. 6 months ago, I was sent to a remote forward operating base to investigate a pattern of harassment that had destroyed at least 12 careers and nearly cost 3 women their lives. No one moved. What I found wasn't just a group of predators. It was a system designed to protect them, a chain of command that dismissed complaints, a culture that blamed victims, a structure that made it easier to destroy a woman's career than to hold a man accountable. She paused. Let the words settle. That system failed, but not because I exposed it. It failed because women who had every reason to stay silent chose to speak, because a staff sergeant risked her career to pass me a code, because survivors who'd been told no one would believe them decided to testify anyway. In the front row, Admiral Patricia Hayes nodded slowly. She'd championed Mira's appointment to the newly created Office of Climate Assessment and Prevention. Today I'm here to introduce a new protocol, one that will change how we investigate harassment, how we protect victims, how we hold commanders accountable when they look the other way. She clicked to the first slide. We call it the Vance Protocol. And it starts with one simple principle: evidence speaks louder than rank. The presentation lasted 90 minutes. Questions followed for another hour. When it ended, Admiral Hayes approached her. That was impressive, Commander. Thank you, Admiral. You know there will be resistance, old guard who think this is overreach, men who feel threatened by accountability. I know. How do you plan to handle that? Mira met her eyes. The same way I handled Briggs, with documentation, with evidence, with the truth. Hayes smiled slightly. Good answer. Then 3 weeks later, Mira returned to Phobie Sandstone. The base looked different now. New commander, new protocols, new atmosphere. Women walked the training yards without looking over their shoulders. Men who'd stayed silent before now reported concerns without fear of retaliation. Not perfect, but better. Staff Sergeant Diana Cortez met her at the landing pad. Commander Vance, welcome back. Still feels strange, being called commander. You earned it. Cortez fell into step beside her. The new CO wants to meet with you. Colonel Richardson. She's good. Actually listens. She, first female commander this base has ever had. Cortez smiled. Funny how that works. They walked toward the command center. Along the way, Marines stopped to acknowledge Mira. Not with fear, not with resentment, with respect. They know what you did, Cortez said quietly. Everyone knows. You're kind of a legend around here. I didn't do it for legend status. I know. That's why it matters. A Colonel Sarah Richardson was waiting in her office, late 40s, silver oak leaves on her collar, the kind of presence that commanded attention without demanding it. "Commander Vance, it's an honor." "The honor is mine, Colonel. Thank you for implementing the new protocols so quickly." "Quickly?" Richardson laughed. "I'd have done it faster if I could. The culture here was toxic, we both know that. It's improving. Because people like you made it possible." Richardson gestured to a chair. "Please, sit. There's something I want to show you." She pulled out a folder, handed it across the desk. Mira opened it. Inside were photographs. Women in uniform. Names she didn't recognize. "These are the 12 victims your investigation identified," Richardson explained. "Since your protocol was announced, 11 of them have reached out to request reinstatement consideration." Mira's heart stopped. "Reinstatement? They want to come back. They want to serve again. Because for the first time they believe the system might actually protect them." Mira looked at the photographs. Faces she'd never seen. Lives she'd helped change without ever meeting them. All 11. All 11. One of them, Kelly Morrison, has already completed her re-entry evaluation. She starts at a new assignment next month. Mira couldn't speak. Richardson leaned forward. "You didn't just expose criminals, Commander. You gave people hope. You showed them that things could change. That someone in this institution actually cared." "I just did my job." "No. You did what no one else was willing to do. There's a difference." After the meeting, Mira walked to the female officers' quarters. The building had been renovated. New security systems. Better lighting. Cameras that actually worked. Her old room was empty now, waiting for the next occupant. She opened the door, stepped inside. The locker was still there. Same gray metal. Same position against the wall. She opened it. Someone had painted over the scratches. The warning Catherine Webb had carved was gone. But not forgotten. Mira pulled out a marker from her pocket. Not to write another warning. Something different. On the inside of the locker door, she wrote 3 words. "You are believed." She closed the locker and walked out. That evening she received a phone call. Karen Reyes. "Commander Vance." "Karen, it's good to hear from you. I heard you're at Sandstone, the base." "I am. Visiting." Silence on the line. Then, "I want to thank you. Properly. In person." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do." Her voice was stronger now, different from the fragile woman Mira had met 6 months ago. "You saved my life. Not literally, but in every way that matters. You saved yourself. I just gave you the opportunity." "That's not true, and you know it." A pause. "I'm getting married, next spring. I wanted you to know." Mira smiled. "Congratulations. My fiancé is a civilian, knows everything that happened, loves me anyway." Karen laughed softly. "I didn't think that was possible. Not after everything. Love is always possible." "Is it? Do you believe that?" Mira thought about the question. "I believe people can heal. I believe trauma doesn't have to define us. And I believe that when we find someone who sees us completely, scars and all, and still chooses to stay, that's as close to a miracle as most of us get." Karen was quiet for a moment. "Will you come to the wedding?" "I'd be honored." "Good, because I want you to meet someone. My maid of honor." "Who is it?" "Catherine Webb. She introduced me to my fiancé. Can you believe that?" Mira felt something warm spread through her chest. "I can believe that. We meet every month now, all 3 of us. Kelly, too, when she's not at training. We call ourselves the Sandstone Sisters." Karen laughed again. "Stupid name, but it's ours." "It's not stupid. It's family." "Yeah." Karen's voice softened. "I guess it is." The next morning, Mira was scheduled to address the base personnel. A brief presentation about the new protocols, standard outreach. But when she arrived at the assembly area, something unexpected was waiting. A young woman in marine utilities, maybe 22, nervous, standing apart from the others. Their eyes met. The young Marine approached. "Commander Vance?" "Yes. My name is Private First Class Jessica Odom. I wondered if I could speak with you, privately." Mira saw something in her eyes, something familiar. "Of course." They walked to a quiet corner away from the assembly. "What's on your mind, Private?" Jessica's hands were trembling. "Something happened, last week, at my previous posting, before I transferred here." Mira waited. There was a sergeant. He said things, did things, nothing physical. But the way he looked at me, the comments he made when no one else was around. She swallowed hard. "I didn't report it. I was scared no one would believe me. And now I'm hearing about what you did, what happened here, how things changed." Jessica's eyes were wet. "I want to know if it's safe to talk, to tell someone." Mira took her hand. "It's safe." "How do you know?" "Because I'll make sure it is. That's my job now. That's why I'm here." Jessica started to cry. Not loud, not dramatic. Just the quiet release of fear she'd been holding for too long. "I thought I was being stupid," she whispered. "Overreacting." "You're not stupid, and you're not overreacting. What happened to you matters. You matter." "What do I do? You tell me everything. I document it. We follow the protocol. And if anyone tries to dismiss it or bury it, they answer to me." Jessica nodded, wiped her eyes. Okay, I can do that." "Yes, you can." Mira spent the next 2 hours listening to her story, taking notes, gathering details. When they finished, she looked at the young woman across from her. "You're brave. You know that. I don't feel brave. Brave people never do. That's how you know it's real." Jessica almost smiled. "Will it get better?" "Eventually. Yes. Not all at once, not without work, but yes." Mira paused. "I promise." The assembly address went as planned. Standard information. Practical guidelines. But at the end, Mira departed from her prepared remarks. "I want to tell you something that's not in the official presentation," she said. "Something personal." The room went quiet. "Before I came here the first time, I didn't know if I could make a difference. I'd seen too many cases buried, too many victims silenced, too many predators protected." She looked out at the faces watching her, men and women, young and old. "But I learned something at this base, something important. Change doesn't come from the top down. It comes from individuals, from people who choose to speak up even when they're scared, from witnesses who choose to corroborate instead of looking away, from commanders who choose to listen instead of dismiss." She paused. "Every person in this room has that choice, every day. In small moments that don't seem important, in interactions that no one else will ever see. You can be part of the problem, or you can be part of the solution. The protocol I've introduced gives you tools, but tools are useless without people willing to use them. So I'm asking you, all of you, be willing, be brave, be the reason someone feels safe enough to speak the truth. Because the next Karen Reyes might be sitting next to you right now. The next Kelly Morrison might be in your unit. The next woman who needs someone to believe her might be looking at you tomorrow wondering if you're safe. Be safe for them. Be the person who makes the difference." She stepped back from the podium. For a moment, silence, then applause, starting in the back, spreading forward, building until the entire room was standing. Mira didn't smile, didn't acknowledge it. Because this wasn't about her. It was about every woman who'd ever been told she was imagining things. Every victim who'd been blamed for her own trauma. Every survivor who'd lost her career, her confidence, her sense of self. This was about them. And it always would be, after the assembly Colonel Richardson found her. That was powerful. It was necessary. What's next for you? Mira thought about the question. There are other bases, other patterns, other systems that need fixing. She looked at the sky. This was just the beginning. You'll never stop, will you? No, I won't. Richardson nodded slowly. Then God help anyone who gets in your way. Mira smiled for the first time all day. They'll need it. 1 year later, the Vance Protocol was implemented across all branches of the United States military. Harassment complaints increased by 40% in the first 6 months. Not because harassment was increasing, because women finally felt safe reporting it. Conviction rates for perpetrators doubled. Commander accountability measures resulted in 17 officers being relieved of duty for failing to address complaints. And in a small apartment in San Diego, Karen Reyes hung her wedding photos on the wall and looked at them every morning without crying. She'd made it. They'd all made it. Not because someone saved them, because someone believed them. And sometimes that's all it takes. Mira Vance never sought recognition for what she accomplished. No medals, no ceremonies, no public praise, but in locker rooms and barracks and training yards across the world, women shared her story, passed it down, made it legend, the woman who walked into a trap and turned it into a weapon, the officer who proved that evidence speaks louder than rank, the 25-year-old who showed the entire military that predators are never as powerful as they believe. Some stories end with the hero riding into the sunset. This one ends with a woman sitting at a desk reviewing the next case file, preparing to fight the next battle. Because justice isn't a destination, it's a choice you make every single day. And Mira Vance chose it, every single time. What do you think? If you were in Mira's position, would you have risked everything to expose the truth? Should commanders who look the other way face the same punishment as the predators themselves? And do you believe systems can really change? Or does it always take individuals willing to fight? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved, you hit that like button and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear that their voice matters. And check out the video on screen right now for another story you won't forget. Because predators count on silence. But evidence speaks louder than rank.